Hey everybody, and welcome to the Deep Dive. We're tackling a pretty big question today. How do we prevent AI exploitation?
That's a huge question.
It is, and luckily we've got this really cool presentation to help us unpack
I
it.
was really impressed by it,
See,
actually.
too, it's not your typical tech talk. It actually goes all the way back to ancient times to look at how work has evolved.
It's a really smart way to set the stage because it argues that this tension between efficiency and the human element, it's been there in every industrial revolution.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And AI is no different, really.
So let's go back to the beginning. What's the starting point for this whole journey?
Well, imagine ancient times, super simple tasks,
Uh-huh.
and you've got command and control leadership.
Right.
It makes sense back then,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
If work is basic, a top-down approach is probably the most efficient.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing things got a bit more complicated as technology advanced.
Oh, absolutely. So the presentation jumps ahead to the first and second industrial revolutions. And suddenly you've got mechanization factories, mass production,
Right.
now managing people alongside all these complex machines. It becomes a whole new ballgame.
And isn't that where Frederick Winslow Taylor enters the picture? With all his ideas about efficiency and standardization?
Yes, but here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The presentation argues that Taylor, who's often seen as the champion of the machine, right?
Right.
He was actually really concerned with improving working conditions and living standards for workers.
Really?
There's even a quote from him about ensuring prosperity for the employer coupled with prosperity for the employee.
Wow, that's not the Taylorism you usually hear about.
Yeah.
So is the presentation saying that Taylor was like some kind of proto-agile thinker?
In a way, yeah. It highlights how both Taylorism and Agile, even though they emerged in totally different contexts, right?
Right.
They share this core concern for both efficiency and worker well-being.
That's so interesting.
They were both responding to the business needs of their time, just in different ways.
That's a fascinating connection. Okay, so how does the presentation bring us into the more modern era?
Well, it jumps ahead to the third industrial revolution.
Yep.
Digital technology, automation, the internet, the whole shebang.
Right.
And the argument is that this explosion of complexity, it's what made those traditional waterfall approaches start to crumble.
Because they just weren't flexible enough to keep up with the pace of change?
Exactly. Think about the dot-com boom and bust in the late 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Companies were banking on technology for super fast results, right?
Yeah.
But so many projects just totally failed because the development processes couldn't adapt to how quickly the market was shifting.
So that's where Agile finally makes its grand entrance.
Right. Agile brought in a whole new mindset, a whole new set of values.
Okay.
Instead of these rigid plans and processes, it's all about embracing change, collaborating closely, and focusing on delivering value to customers quickly and in those small iterations.
So it's not that Agile is inherently better than Waterfall. It's more that it's a different set of tools and a different way of thinking.
Exactly.
And that way of thinking is better suited for certain types of work, especially in our super fast-paced world.
That's a great way to put it. The presentation really emphasizes that it's about choosing the right approach for the specific needs of the project and the organization.
Okay, so we've gone from ancient times through 3 industrial revolutions. Where does the presentation take us next?
Well, buckle up because we're about to jump into the fourth industrial revolution, the age of AI robotics, the Internet of Things.
All the futuristic stuff.
All that and more.
All right, let's dive into that uncharted territory.
Let's do it. And this revolution, it really blurs the lines between the physical world, the digital world, and even the biological world.
In ways we've never seen before.
Exactly. And that brings up these incredible opportunities, but also some pretty serious potential dangers.
Right.
And the presentation uses this example. It's a really striking one of these coffee shops that are using AI to track worker performance down to the second.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of terrifying to think that even those small human moments of connection could be optimized out of existence.
Right. And the presentation calls this turning workers into biological cogs in the machine. And that brings us right back to this question of how do we ensure that AI empowers us and doesn't exploit us?
And that's where Agile comes in.
That's what the presentation is arguing. Yeah.
Right.
So remember how we were talking about lean being about efficiency?
Yeah.
Well, Agile is about resilience.
Okay.
And in a world that's becoming increasingly complex and uncertain thanks in part to AI, we need that resilience more than ever.
So resilience to adapt to rapid change, to deal with those unexpected challenges,
Yeah.
to make sure we don't lose sight of the human element amidst all this crazy, powerful technology.
Precisely. Agile provides this framework for navigating all that complexity, for embracing change and for really prioritizing ethical considerations alongside all those technical advancements.
It's almost like Agile gives us this compass
Yeah,
for navigating this like uncharted territory of AI.
that's a great analogy. A
Yeah.
compass that helps us steer toward a future where AI works for us, not the other way around.
Right. Okay, so how does that actually play out in practice? How can we
Yeah.
use Agile principles to, as you said, steer in the right direction?
Well, the presentation highlights this core agile principle of continuous improvement. Kaizen is what it's called in Japanese.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
this idea of constantly striving to get better, learning from experience, adapting to new information.
So it's not about just setting up an AI system and letting it run.
Right.
It's about constantly evaluating it, looking for potential problems,
Yeah.
making sure it's aligned with our values.
Exactly. And another really important aspect of agile is this emphasis on collaboration,
Oh, yeah.
bringing together diverse perspectives, breaking down silos, and working together to find solutions.
So in the context of AI, that means involving not just the technologists,
Yeah.
but also like ethicists, social scientists, policymakers,
Of course.
and, of course, the people who'll be most affected by these systems.
Absolutely. Because if we just leave it to the engineers, we might end up with solutions that are technically brilliant, but lack that human understanding.
Yeah.
Agile reminds us that technology is supposed to serve humanity, not the other way around.
I'm really seeing how this presentation connects those dots,
Yeah.
between these historical trends and the current challenges with AI, and then the potential for Agile to guide us through this new era.
It's a really insightful perspective, and I think one of the key takeaways is that Agile, it's not just about a particular set of processes or tools. It's a mindset, it's a culture, a way of thinking that can be applied to all sorts of challenges, not just software development.
It's about being adaptable, being open to change, and putting people at the center of our solutions, which seems especially important when we're talking about something as powerful as AI.
Exactly, and those are qualities that are going to be essential as we navigate this increasingly complex landscape of AI.
So with all this in mind, what does this all mean for us?
Mm.
What can we do to make sure that AI is used ethically and responsibly?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And the presentation doesn't really offer any easy answers, but it does give us some really valuable food for thought.
Okay.
For example, it suggests starting small part, experimenting with AI in areas where the risks are relatively low, and we can actually learn from our mistakes.
So kind of like running pilot projects
Yeah,
to test the waters before we dive in head first.
precisely. Another suggestion is to really focus on developing AI systems that augment human capabilities instead of replacing them entirely.
So thinking about how AI can help us do our jobs better, make better decisions,
Yeah.
or even free us up to focus on more creative and strategic tasks.
Exactly. And it's crucial to involve workers in the design and implementation of these systems,
Right.
to get their input, address their concerns, and make sure that these technologies are truly serving their needs.
Because at the end of the day, they're the ones who will be using these tools day in and day out.
Exactly. And going back to those agile values that we talked about, collaboration, continuous improvement, customer focus.
Yeah.
These values can be powerful guides in developing and using AI in a way that benefits everyone, not just a select few.
It's a really powerful reminder that technology is a tool.
Yeah.
And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad. It's up to us to make sure that it's used in a way that aligns with our values and our vision for a better future.
Well said. And I think that's a really important message for us to carry forward as we continue to explore the potential of AI.
I totally agree. This presentation has given us a lot to think about, and I'm sure our listeners have some takeaways of their own. So if you're as intrigued by this whole Agile AI connection as we are,
As I am.
we really encourage you to check out the full presentation.
Yeah, there's so much more to unpack, like
Right.
how those specific agile practices can actually be used in AI development.
Right.
And then the bigger picture stuff, like the implications of AI-powered decision making.
And don't worry, we've got a link to the presentation right there in the episode description.
Easy to find.
Definitely worth checking out.
You know what really stood out to me in this presentation?
Was how it kept bringing the focus back to the human element.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so easy to get caught up in all the technical details of AI
Right.
and forget that at the end of the day, it's all about people.
It's about how AI can make our lives better.
Yeah.
How can it make our work more meaningful, and how it can help us create a more just and equitable society?
That's a future worth fighting for.
It really is. And I think Agile can be a really powerful tool to help us get there.
So to wrap things up, I think the big question we're left with is how do we ensure that AI empowers us and doesn't exploit us?
Yeah.
How can we use these agile principles to create a future where AI truly benefits all of humanity?
That's a question that we all need to be asking ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think the more we discuss it,
Yeah.
the more we collaborate, the better equipped we'll be to navigate all of this.
It's like uncharted territory, right?
It really is.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Agile and AI. We hope it's given you some new things to think about.
Some new ideas. And inspired you to think critically about the role of technology in our lives.
And don't forget to check out that link in the episode description to watch the full presentation.
Yeah, it's well worth your time.
It really is.
Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep exploring.